stand by there, Facebook. Hello, podcast, Facebook. Everybody, welcome to Sports Scope on this November 2nd day. Wow, it's already November 2021. Looks like the Braves are up 5-0. They're wrapping up the top of the fifth in the World Series. Never won a Call a World Series one way or the other. I've seen too many great late inning comebacks in the World Series. Particularly, I went to bed one time, 2001, Game 7, thought the Yankees had it. Hated the Yankees at the time against Arizona. Big baseball fan, and they end up Arizona. I read the next day and saw the comeback next day. Obviously, came back and won that thing. So, never say never. And I just now got done watching a few weeks ago, folks, the 30 for 30 on the Mets, where Boston, they were bringing in the confetti and they were setting up the post-game show. And for the Boston Red Sox in 1986. And of course, we know what happened there. The Mets came back and won the game. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself and give the Braves a congratulations until the last out in the bottom of the ninth. Other news today with NFL trade deadline. A lot of overreaction, I think. I think the sense of Von Miller coming traded to the LA Rams. I think there's a little bit of overreaction there. I think the Rams are built on a house of cards. I'll get into that. Derrick Henry, devastating blow. People I talk to around the Nashville area and all these clinics and stuff I go to all day during my 12-hour journey during the day when I'm not here preparing to do Sports Scope. I want to tell people to chill there, but the biggest story right now is out of Las Vegas. The Raiders, they cannot seem to stay out of the news. Very serious incident with Henry Ruggs, wide receiver there. He's the leading receiver yardage-wise. Really having a breakout year in his second year there with the Raiders. This is just a few weeks after Gruden stepped down with the email scandal. And now he's been in a horrible accident over the night, and he's been charged with DUI. There was a woman. He was driving a Corvette with a lady friend of his, and he rear-ended a Toyota where the person in the Toyota died. And now there's a video of the car burning up. She burned up in the car. Just a very serious incident here out of Las Vegas with Henry Ruggs, former Alabama player, second-year player, first-round pick out of Las Vegas, Pickles. And I'll say this, guys, I just turned 40 a few months ago. I'll say this. I know it's a lot of hassle, and a lot of the players watch this program, a lot of young people. If you're feeling pretty tipsy, I know it's hassle, but you see what this can lead to. Lock your car up, call an Uber, call a cab, and just pick it up the next day, man. I mean, don't get out there and try to drink and drive. Things like this happen, and this is and I've been reading all day, double checking with all the NFL reporters about what the league's saying, what Mark Davis is saying. This guy's been charged with felony DUI. He has not been charged with any kind of vehicular manslaughter or anything like that yet. So I don't know if he will be, but I know that a woman's dead, that the person he hit from the rear end with that black Corvette that he was driving. And there's a video now of TMZ and New York Post of the car burning up. You can see that the car burning up with the lady in it. Very crazy, unfortunate, sad situation there out of Vegas. As far as I know, the Raiders have not cut him yet. Is this the end of the world for his career? I don't think so. Again, that's why I do this show, guys. I like to get into stuff that other people do not talk about, per se. As far as Henry Ruggs is concerned, I mean, he's probably facing some possible jail time, a possible long year suspension on his driver's license, a lot of fines, probably going to get sued, I would imagine. But let me tell you this is not the end of his career. His precedent, and I read something he's faced possibly 2 years. League-wise, what does the NFL do? Has this ever happened in the NFL? And I've got 2 examples where players did come back, okay? Let's see. Leonard Little, former University of Tennessee star, LA Rams player. He got a DUI in a fatal accident, similar situation back in 1998. Now, of course, there was a different commissioner then. I'm aware of that. He was suspended that season, 8 games. He did 90 days in a city workhouse. But Little stayed with the Rams and played with the Rams until 2009. So this is not a that's one example. Little did come back and play. He came back and played and had a pretty good career. Another example under Roger Goodell as the commissioner, Dante Stallworth in 2009, exact same charge, suspended in the whole season by Goodell. In 2009, he was playing with the Patriots, I want to say, at the time. And he bounced around the league until 2013. He was suspended the 09 season. As far as his legal stuff, I think he got like a lifelong suspension of his license and got some probation and everything else, and a lot of fines as well. But Dante Stallworth, former Patriot wide receiver, again, he suspended one season, bounced around the league, including coming back to the Patriots in 2010 and in 2012. So I wouldn't say the guy's career is over with. Now, if he sent a homophobic email, it may be over with, right? Just kidding. So what do you do? If you're the Raiders, you know, they've got this team is more often carried by Derek Carr this year. Derek Carr's having a career year. One of his games, he had like a 90-something% completion percentage. And you know what? I know this is more of a passing league and everything with the what the National Football League is now. But I want to remind you all that the Packers are 7-0 without Davante Adams. And he's recognized as the best receiver in the league, including a win last week over Arizona without Allen Lazard and Davante Adams, guys. These teams are built around winning teams, and cultures are built around quarterback play, offensive line, and defensive line. Once you get that down, quarterbacks and running backs are interchangeable. I mean, it's good to have some skill positions that are solid and reliable, but it's not the end-all, be-all. It's more the quarterback makes the wide receiver. I noticed that Deshaun Jackson was released today. Maybe they should go out and look for him. He's more of a deep threat. The Raiders still have Darren Waller. They have Hunter Renfrow. And this other guy, I have to go back and check their depth chart again. Let's see. Brian Edwards there. They got some pieces. I mean, they're not the absolute best. But I'll say this. It's going back to the Rubs. He's probably not going to play this year. I talked to you guys about this with the Deshaun Watson. This is a felony case. I know he's not going to play Sunday, and I think that it's going to be an issue where I'm surprised they haven't cut him, but he'd definitely be put on this commissioner's exempt. There's no way he's going to play. There's probably no way he's going to play this year. And judging by that, Dante Stallworth, he may get suspended for the whole season. So not the end of the world. but I'm sure the guys shook up about it. And as far as the Raiders are concerned, the trade deadline come and went. They didn't do anything. Again, I mentioned Deshaun Jackson, somebody like that to bring in. As far as the Raiders, some people are saying they're going to fall apart. I don't see that happening either. They're in first place. Now, if something happened to Derek Carr, that could possibly happen. As far as this year is concerned, I think they'll be okay with an interim coach. Now, going forward past this year, they need to hire a real coach. I mean, after the season, I would not, even if they went to the playoffs and won a few games, I would not go with the interim coach. History says that does not work out. That it simply says it does not work out. Look at Romeo Crennel when he did that with the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, folks? But, I had to mention that. People have been talking about it, emailing it, and I noticed a few guys that listen to my program were Brian tagged me with that as well. So, but yeah, I did notice that today. Okay. Other news, Von Miller went to the Rams and was traded for a second and third round pick. Now, the Rams now have just a fifth and a seventh round pick in next year's draft. They have no first round pick. I want to say they have no first round pick in the 23rd draft. But they have two picks left. And now I will say this, but the 32-year-old Miller did play 16 games last year. He's not quite the player that he was when he won Super Bowl MVP. That was in 2015, guys. The 2015 season. He does play hurt. He does play throughout everything. I will say this, Les Snead, and the Denver Broncos, they agreed, meaning the Broncos agreed to pay $9 million of Von Miller's $9.7 million, they paid $9 million. So the Rams are only paying him $700,000 for at least half of the season. A lot of people now are thinking that they're locks to get the Super Bowl. They got only one loss. And I'm saying, like Lee Corso would say, not so fast. First of all, Andrew Whitworth, their left tackle, missed last week. Now, they played the Houston Texans. They had them down 35-38, nothing at halftime. No problem there. But if you look back last year, and it wasn't not even this soon. It's just now November. If you look back last year when Whitworth got hurt, the first game or two, mine's drawing blanks here. Jared Goff, who's now with Detroit, had a pretty good game, including beating Tampa Bay. But as that season went along, people started criticizing Jared Goff. This guy's not the guy. He's losing it. No, it was because he had to throw the ball faster because he didn't quite have the time because Whitworth wasn't back there at left tackle. That's why he was going downhill. And you could see that. And they still won a playoff game. But now he was rotated in and out. He supposedly got hurt. I don't know how much of that is 100% true. Last year or not, we will never know. But I'm not ready to pencil them into the Super Bowl. Now, of course, making that move, of course, could they be? And I've always stood firm. They're a very top-heavy team. I do like Darrell Henderson. He's having a good season. I like this offense. Cooper Kupp having a career year. Matt Stafford, some are going to say he's rose up into that MVP talk. And just to look at their schedule, as I mentioned before all this went down, in the preseason, the reason why I didn't have the Rams in the Super Bowl was their Murder's Row schedule down the stretch, being a team that's very dependent on their stars, including Aaron Donald. Donald got hurt. He was hurt late in the Seattle game in the playoffs, sitting on the sideline most of the game, in the Green Bay game in the second round there, divisional round. Obviously, we know what happened. The Rams lost the game. I think it would have been the same result if Stafford would have been the quarterback at the time. Okay? For example, I'm looking at their schedule here, if I can find it. Okay. Not even counting the Tennessee game. And I'll get to the Derrick Henry injury here in just a minute. But this is the next few games, and they've got 2 games before their bye week, including Sunday Night Football against Tennessee at home. Now, Tennessee's going to get Derrick Henry. Again, that's going to be the next segment, but they got to play at San Francisco. So they got Tennessee and San Francisco the next 2 games. Could win both of them. All right. Then they get a bye week and week 11. But then after that, they got to play at Green Bay, home against Jacksonville, no biggie there. But then at Arizona. Then Seattle at home. Seattle always plays this team tough. Russell Wilson's had this pin already taken out of his finger. So that's going to be not a piece of cake, not a walk in the park. These 2 teams always play real tight. Even the 49ers. Seattle game was tight even when Wilson got out of the game in the Thursday game about 3 weeks ago. So then they got to play at Minnesota, pretty physical team. They're underwhelming. And I'll talk about Mike Zimmer here in a little bit. And then at Baltimore, and then home to San Francisco again. So that is a very physical schedule down the stretch for a team that is top heavy. I mean, that is a Murder's Row type of schedule. Again, this is the second half of their season. They got Green Bay, Arizona, Seattle, Minnesota, Baltimore, and San Francisco. So, again, they are still behind Arizona. So if the playoffs started today, this team would be a wild card team. They would have to go on the road and play. And that, quite frankly, with all the veterans and everything, lack of draft picks the last few years, again, an injury here and an injury there, this team is really going to be up the creek. You know, your defense, no matter how good your defense is, if your quarterback's having problems getting rid of the ball, if you're having problems running the ball, that can turn around real quick when you're playing a highly competitive division like this. And again, you're playing teams like Baltimore, Green Bay, who looks 10 times better than I thought they would look at this. And then Arizona, even though they're a little banged up, this is not a cakewalk. Baltimore, Minnesota, still 2 games against San Francisco. And, of course, again, they play Tennessee this Sunday. So I'm thinking this team is going to get 3 or 4 more losses. I don't think they're going to be able to hold that. They're not going to be able to stay healthy. I don't think Whitworth is going to finish this season with that. I'm not sure a 30-plus-year-old Aaron Donald is going to finish this season with a physical schedule like that, okay? So we'll see how it works out. Again, I'll admit if I'm wrong. If they win the Super Bowl this year or next year, all this paid off. I don't think they're going to get to the Super Bowl this year. I'm not even sure if they'll get to the NFC Championship game this year. I'm not even sure if 100% if they're going to win the NFC West. We'll have to see how Arizona handles the setbacks that they've already had. How bad is Kyler Murray's ankle injury? If it's bad at all, young as he is, he's probably going to heal up very quickly. San Francisco looked pretty good against Chicago last week. How's that going to play out? They picked up a player out of Houston. Houston's doing a wholesale operation there. But I'm just saying, I think fatigue and injury we'll catch up with this particular team. Okay, a lot of lone faces. I'm at Nashville, Tennessee. Tennessee goes on the road. They beat Indianapolis. Guys, I've called them to lose 3 games in a row. I didn't think they'd beat Buffalo. And then I thought maybe the Buffalo game was too emotional for them. I didn't think they'd beat Kansas City. Of course, we know what they beat Kansas City 27-3. I was telling everybody, including on this program, I don't think they're going to beat on the road, much desperate, playing much better. Indianapolis team, we know what happened. They beat Indianapolis. But now there's a fracture. Derrick Henry's got a foot injury. And everything is 6-10. That's worst case. Ian Rappaport, NFL Network, could come back in 6 weeks. I'm saying way this guy is, very good shape, fast hiller. I'm saying 7 weeks. Well, guess what? For those of you who think it's some people at work not thinking they're not even going to make the playoffs. Well, they still got the bye week, Tennessee. If you look at their schedule compared to anybody that's even close to them, of course, that would be the 3-5 Indianapolis Colts. Mind you, Tennessee, if the playoffs started today, would be a number 1 seed in the AFC since Cincinnati lost. They would be the number 1 seed in the AFC. They have a 6-2 record. They have a 3-game lead and the tiebreaker over the Colts. The other 2 teams are 1-6. Jacksonville and Houston are bottom feeders. So, looking at their schedule, conservatively, looking at the Tennessee Titans schedule for the rest of the way, I'll say they'll lose to the Rams on Sunday. And then they have the Saints at home with the Trevor Siemian. I'll talk about his up and down career. And then Houston here at home, they'll beat Houston. And then at New England, that could go either way. And then they have a late week 13 bye. Still got to play Jacksonville, Houston again, Miami, that's here in Nashville, San Francisco on a short week playing here in Nashville. That's a winnable game. Now, they do play at Pittsburgh down the stretch, but that's the only Pittsburgh and San Francisco, that's the only 2 teams with a winning record. And then you look at the Colts' schedule. The Colts got to play the Jets Thursday remaining. And remind you, again, 3-game lead here with the tiebreaker that Tennessee has. The Colts still have to play at Buffalo. Then they got to play Tampa at home. They also have to play at Arizona and New England at home. So, and throw in the Raiders. So you do that, and you look at the fact that Tennessee has the tiebreaker. I do not see the Colts coming back and catching them. I just don't see that. Could happen, but I seriously doubt it. I don't think that this team is that reliant on the running game. I brought it up because Derrick Henry, a lot of people would consider him an MVP candidate. And mind you, again, this team has a bye week coming up in week 13. They still have to play Houston twice. This is going to be one of the top 5 draft picks with the Jacksonville Jaguars in that particular line of slew of games. So I still like them to win the AFC South. I never saw this team getting a number 1 seed anyways. Mind you that now they did sign Adrian Peterson. I wasn't in love with that. Before the draft came about, or before the deadline came about, people were talking about maybe Dearness Brown out of I can't get this guy's name. It's either Dearness Brown or Dearness Johnson. I want to say it was Pat McAfee who said that. It would be someone like that would be a good trade value, and I said, well, maybe a 5th round pick or somebody. Dearness Johnson, yeah, Dearness Johnson. What Pat McAfee said, well, maybe a 5th round pick or something for Dearness Johnson. Well, Browns never didn't move him; they didn't do anything. So, my guess is they'll play Peterson probably one game, and then they'll probably cut him. He's a Hall of Fame running back, great resume. The guy's washed up, though. He doesn't have the explosion it takes. I'm sure they'll use somebody like McNichols. There's other running backs out there. Guys like Todd Gurley still out there. There'll be some player that they could pick up off the waiver if they feel like they need to. Yeah, they'll have to change it. They can't do all those running plays. I would say that. But my thing is, I simply do not think that this team is I simply do not think that this team is going to fall off that much. The physicality, the culture, all that is put in for all that is put in by Mike Vrabel, the head coach here. So, I just don't think that's going to be an issue. But it is what it is. He's tough. He'll come back. Okay, moving right along here. Deshaun Watson was not traded today. I think the team's got a little bit of cold feet by his legal issues. And I will say this. Probably a blessing in disguise if you're a Houston Texans fan. I do think that they will I do think that they will probably be able to get full market value for Deshaun Watson in March during the when the new league year starts. There's a good chance by February that this could be resolved with his legal case. And, they could up the ante a little bit once that, other teams have have some clarity whether he's going to get in any trouble or not, or get suspended or whatnot. So it's probably going to work out better for Houston. And quite frankly, it might probably work out better for Watson because more teams with bigger, with more to offer for him. Remember, he's got a no trade clause. He lifted it for Miami. Miami got a little cold feet at the end. Maybe, maybe he lifts it for Philadelphia. Philadelphia, they have 3 first-round picks. I know they had a good game against Detroit, and I'll talk about that disaster here in a little bit. But they're going to have a lot more cap room and flexibility towards the end of the year to begin next year as well. So somebody like Philadelphia, Miami's in a lot of trouble right now. I mean, they've got 1 win. They're pretty much out of it. No playoff race. And what you could let a guy like Tua up his resume up and give them some more leverage to possibly trade him off somewhere else. Okay. All righty then. Okay. Any more trade news? And there was, Kansas City's still in this thing, folks. People can get crazy about Kansas City. Their defense this, their defense that. Mahomes is not playing well. They're not running the ball. Well, they're 4-4. The Raiders just had some devastating news. The Chargers were beat. The Chargers have got it. Like I said last week, this Charger team has given up a lot in the running game. The run defense is just not there. They have a hard time stopping the run. New England went there and beat them, just like I thought that they could, and they did. So the Chiefs have traded Laurent Duvernay-Tardif to the Jets for a late-round pick. He's an offensive lineman there. Hold on, folks. Let me change out my podcast here. Okay, I'm back now. So they have traded away one of their surplus guards on the offensive line, Melvin Ingram. They traded with the Steelers, which I'm surprised Steelers didn't want to trade in the AFC. They changed their mind. They traded speed rusher Melvin Ingram. Used to play with the Chargers. Now he's with the Chiefs, so he's kind of giving the Chiefs a little inside information on what the Chargers are week-wise on the offensive line. So they've upped their pass rush. I still think that they have a chance at the division. Not sure if they are the best team in the AFC. I think Buffalo's much better. Tennessee proved they're better with the healthy Derrick Henry. So I would put them behind those teams. And right now, maybe even a healthy Pittsburgh team may be a better team. But they did get Melvin Ingram. And, Mark Ingram went to the Saints. We saw that. Zach Ertz of the Cards already got a touchdown. Real good fit there with Arizona. Stephen Gilmore to the Panthers had a play to help the Panthers win the Falcon game the other day. And then C.J. Henderson, the Panthers, if Sam Darnold could stop turning over the football, they got a shot to get back in the playoffs. That was a big win for them. But, they've got C.J. Henderson, Stephon Gilmore, and whatnot. Other Charles Amaniu to the 49ers was traded again from Houston to help the 49ers out with their pass rush. Okay. I'll say this. I said this in the offseason. I said this when this guy was hired. This Dan Campbell, coach for Detroit, he's bad. You don't hire. This is what I would tell any owner, general manager. You typically don't want to hire a position coach to be your head coach who's never been a coordinator before, okay? This Dan Campbell, the 49ers, hold on, folks. He was an interim coach for about not even half a season about 6 years ago with the Miami Dolphins. He's this emotional, rah-rah guy. The players are jumping up on the sideline. Looks very collegiate level. When he first took over Miami, when their head coach was fired in the middle of the season, they played great for about a game and a half, and then they fell off, and they did not hire Dan Campbell. Then after that, he was a tight ends coach for the Saints, and they said assistant head coach, but never really technically the head coach. So now this team is 0-8. I think 0-7, 0-8, whatever. You can run on this team. You can throw on this team. I thought when he was hired that reminds me of Jim Tomsula, the former 49er coach who was hired 1 year. 1 year. He was like an offensive line coach with the 49ers back in 2015. Pickles, they went 6-11 that year. I don't know if this team is going to win a game. When you give up a 44-6 to a team that's probably going to be in the top 10 with a second-year quarterback, practically a rookie quarterback, Jared Goff has played in the Super Bowl. Jared Goff, is a veteran quarterback in this league. You're at home and you play a Philadelphia team at home and you get beat 44-6. And I looked at Detroit is 19th in points given up in the NFL. They're 23rd against the pass defense. They're 30th in run defense, 16th in pass, excuse me. And the only reason they're 16th in pass defense is teams get up on them early and then just run the ball out, Yeah, they almost beat up a severely injured Baltimore team. Yeah, they played all kinds of crazy plays, and they played the Rams pretty tight for a little while. Came there. But these rah-rah guys like that, Pickles, these guys that get really high and really low, these guys that cry at the podium like that. The problem with that is your team is going to play like that. That they're going to be really high and then really low. They were really high for the Rams, and then they were really low for the lowly Eagles. You want to have a stable head coach, and that's what Dan Campbell is. He's not a stable. He's very bipolar, and that's how the team plays. If Detroit, if I was advising the Ford family, I would say cut the leash with this guy at the end of the year. He's not going to win a game. They may win a single game. My odds are they are going to get the number one pick overall. We don't know if this is going to be a quarterback draft or not. I don't know if they're going to keep Jared Goff, but this guy's not the answer. He's not the answer. They are not a stable stable. He's not a stable coach. He's a likable players coach. He's the opposite. That's what teams do. They always get the opposite of what the former coach was. The former coach was very standoffish. I can't even remember the guy's name now. Former defensive coordinator for the Patriots. This guy's very player friendly, loves the players. Too emotional, up and down, crying at the podium, talking about biting kneecaps and stuff. But all that leads to nothing. You really just get a good coach and pay your scouts, get a GM and get out of the way and give them 3 to 5 years. It's that easy. It's that easy. Don't overpay for a bunch of wide receivers and running backs. Take care. And the only thing they can hang their hat on, they got a fair offensive line. They got a running back in DeAndre Swift. And they got a pretty decent to Pro Bowl level tight end there. But they have defensive tackles bad, linebackers bad, cornerbacks bad. The cornerback that they did draft, he's out for the season early. I forgot his name. They're just bad everywhere. They're bad. And this guy, if it was up to me, I would do a Jim Tom Sula deal with the 49ers and let him go after 1 year. Arizona did it, and then they brought in Kingsbury. To Kingsbury credit, they have improved. I mean, they're a playoff team now. So that, like I said, they are number one pick bad to me. I think they're really that bad a football team. Speaking of unfortunate situations, now Dallas, great win by Dallas. I was just talking about a team that, people think the Rams are built on a lot of older players, very top heavy. If any of these, well, look what Dallas totally built around a lot of young players. They've hit on their draft picks, something the Rams hadn't done. They take their backup quarterback and Cooper Rush or whatever, go beat Minnesota at Minnesota. What's the flip side? Well, the flip side is not only did Minnesota lose to a backup quarterback, but they lost to a backup quarterback at home. And now there's some criticism I was reading on the internet about Mike Zimmer has receiving criticism for his time management issue. The real problem is he's stuck with Kirk Cousins for this year until next. And Kirk Cousins is eating up $31 million of that salary cap. He's worth about 15 of that. Okay. Zimmer's been there 7 years. They got to the NFC Championship game 3 years ago. But now they have to pay this quarterback a lot of money. And so they had to let all those defensive players go. You know, that's the thing. When you're paying a quarterback that kind of money, like Dallas, you have to hit on all your picks. And if you don't, a little nick here and there, injury, and you're falling apart. You know, so they have to make the playoffs this year. They're still in the race, but losses like this and the Cincinnati in week 1, the missed 37-yard field goal at Arizona that should have won the game, that would have won the game. Zimmer's probably going to be the sacrificial lamb, and they're probably going to fire him. But if I'm Rick Spielman, I try to pull off a miracle. Rick Spielman's the general manager there. Pull off a miracle and get a sucker to take Kirk Cousins. Maybe trade him back to Washington. They're having problems now. Try to work out something with the salary. Maybe Washington can take him. It's Cousins is his salary, his mediocre play. He's just, and Zimmer, he's a good guy, good coach. They probably will just move on from him. I don't think I can save this guy. I think it's probably not going to end well for Minnesota. But he's a good defensive coordinator. There's plenty of teams out there that will take him. Here in Tennessee, I would take a guy like Zimmer, defensive coordinator. If he wants to return, I think he will. Maybe Cincinnati goes after and tries to bring him back. He was a longtime defensive coordinator there for years. But I sense that I would try to work out a trade with a team and maybe work out something where he's like a $45 million cap hit next year. Net cap. So you would have to work out a deal the way Les Snead worked out with Denver, where Denver's paying $9 million, but they're getting a second and third round pick for a player that's 32 years old that we're going to move on from anyways. You see what I'm saying? Cousins, again, somebody, now remember, the management with Washington's different now. Bruce Allen's gone. This is ran by a different general manager, and Ron Rivera is the head coach now, different coaching staff. Maybe they will try to, but that's what I'm doing. If you're going to hire a new coach, which looks like that's probably what they're going to do. I think Zimmer's going to get the hook. It's unfortunate, but that's what's going to happen. You find somebody to take Kirk Cousins and just go out and work with the quarterback you drafted last year. Maybe go after another quarterback. But I would not have Cousins on there with his salary because that's just not. He's just not worth that kind of money. He's definitely not worth what they're going to pay him next year. It's going to be closer to the 40 range. But again, it is what it is. That's my next prediction as far as movement. Him possibly Matt Nagy in Chicago. But again, with the Bears, I would do away with Ryan Pace. I would do away with Ryan Pace, the general manager. Okay. Trevor Siemian. Last week, guys, we had a guy named Mike White come in for the Jets, and they went on, won the game there. Cincinnati was a little too high. Young team, big win. Fell flat, went on the road to a team who's humiliated the week before in the Jets. This backup quarterback, Mike White, leads into a victory. My dad was telling me about he thought that the Saints would win, and a lot of that is because people just don't like Tom Brady. I get it, and you want to see Brady lose. Now the Saints did beat the Bucks twice in the regular season last year, but the Bucks did win in the playoffs last year. Jameis Winston knocked out with an ACL, and now there's talk: can the Saints win the division? They've only one game back in the division. Trevor Siemian comes in, pulls off the win. Again, Simeon, he's good for a backup quarterback. He's good for 2 or 3 games. He's very Ryan Fitzpatrick like. This guy, first year with Denver, takes over as a quarterback, gets knocked out. Denver takes over in 2007. 16. Had like 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. But then they gave him the starting job. He comes in the next year and he has 12 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. He kind of comes back to earth. This guy bounces around the league. He's a Teddy Bridgewater, probably not as consistent as Bridgewater. He's a Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's a stopgap guy. But the Saints are only 1 game back of Tampa. But they have a much tougher. Again, it's you got to look at the schedule and you got to be realistic, okay? So the Saints schedule, and of course they're very lucky to even be in it. The Saints at this point, very good job by Mickey Loomis, the general manager there. This team was $100 million over the salary cap, folks. $100 million over the salary cap coming into the season. And they found a way to stay relevant. I mean, they're in the wild card race. But look who they've got. Now, they got Atlanta next week. You would say, yeah, they should get that. They got Atlanta. Atlanta matches up really well with the Saints. Don't be surprised if Atlanta, coming off that loss to Carolina, don't beat them. That's usually a tight 1-score game. It has been in the past. Don't be surprised if Atlanta wins that game. And then they got to play at Tennessee. I mentioned that before. It depends on what Tennessee looks like and in Tennessee's injury situation. That's not a given. Tennessee's, mind you, they're the number 1 seed right now in the AFC. At Philadelphia, no problem there. Then they got to play Buffalo at home Thanksgiving night. And then they play at the Jets. Then they got to play at Tampa. They got to play at Tampa on the 19th of December. And then Miami. And then Carolina and Atlanta at home. Carolina, now E.J. Henderson and Stephon Gilmore. And Gilmore looks good already. Now acquired at cornerback. So, again, at Tampa, Buffalo, Tennessee, and Atlanta twice, and then Carolina at home. So, by the way, and throw Dallas in there a week after Buffalo. Dallas is playing the best football. So, you look at Dallas, probably lost. Buffalo lost. At Tampa, I don't know. Tampa's getting healthy. By the way, Tampa, Scotty Miller's coming back for Tampa. And they have there was a report there. Getting back healthy at cornerback. They're getting another cornerback back. So I just don't see it. I don't see them catching Tampa. So much as you haters who hate Brady because he works harder than you and you lay around and bleep off, Brady, they're going to be successful. Get over it, you know. I don't know if they're going to be the best in the NFC. NFC's pretty good. A lot better than I thought. But I don't see this Saints team doing this. If they do get to the playoffs, you got to give Sean Payton Coach of the Year. Possibly the same thing with John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh, if they go to the Scotty Miller is going to be back. Antonio Brown's going to be back. The flip side, yes, Brady threw a bad interception late. I've said this before about Tom Brady. November, mid to late November, every year, if they have a late bye, he looks sluggish. He starts to show his age. He's had that the last 5 years. But after their bye weeks, going back to New England, he plays rejuvenated. He plays much better. He gets that week off. It's a well-deserved week off. This week, they're on a bye week. He had some really bad throws in that game. And they were telegraphed. It was just bad throws. But they're going to come back out this bye week, looking back at their schedule, since we're at the midway point. They're coming off the bye week. They play at Washington, a train wreck right now. Then they got the Giants. Then they could play at the Colts. They possibly lose the Buffalo, possibly losing the Saints, but a lot of Carolina, New Jersey, and Carolina. So with the healthy secondary, Sam Darnold is a train wreck. I mean, he's a reckless player. I mean, they may lose one, possibly two more games. The Saints are going to lose 2 to 3 more games, minimum, playing Buffalo, playing the Dallas. And who's to say Trevor Siemian's going to beat Matt Ryan twice? Who's to say that? Did I mention Tennessee? They got to play at Tennessee. Not at New Orleans, at Tennessee. I don't know if Trevor Siemian's magic's going to wear off. So they still got a shot, though. They have a shot at the wild card. But I don't think they're going to surpass. I think it was a big overreaction to that loss there. Yeah. Also, the Braves, Pickle says Freddie Freeman hit 7-0 Braves. You got to get to the bottom of the ninth, and you got to get that last out. Kudos to the Atlanta Braves up to this point. Now, going to the college game, guys, I'm going to talk some more with that Henry Ruggs and the Von Miller story. I just didn't get to everything I wanted to today. Hold on for a second. I just didn't get to everything I wanted to today, but I did want to talk about this with Dan Mullen. Again, bad loss for Florida. Georgia beat them as expected, and now, as predicted, Georgia. People are coming out for Dan Mullen now, or Florida fans. They're coming out for Dan Mullen. Let's see if I can find this. I had a soundbite of him talking, and here it is. Check this out. This is press conference.
Come up a lot the last couple of days from a few angles. Is it a different approach needed for the level of consistency?
Well, we're in the season right now. We'll do recruiting after the season. And when it gets this recruiting time, we can talk about recruiting.
Sounds good.
Okay. Next question.
Yeah, he poo-pooed a question about recruiting. This video is even worse, is what the reporter says. Bruce Feldman says today's story on the issues, and he's with the Athletic, I believe, at Florida, and Dan Mullen especially telling me right now the SEC coaches on a growing gap between Florida and Georgia, and while the Gators are going backwards. That's what I predicted. That was the main thing with him is recruiting with Dan Mullen with the University of Florida. He's not, and then I read that they have stopped all his press conferences this week. That sounded so bad, the University of Florida. So he's not going to last there. Dan Mullen's not going to last at Florida. That job's going to come open. Former Alabama coach, great recruiter over there in Oregon. I think that would probably be the guy for this job, Mario Cristobal. Keep that name in mind. Now, he has officially been fired. I'm just saying, I think Dan Mullen's going to get fired. I think Mike Zimmer's going to get fired. Probably Matt Nagy, but I would go Ryan Pace. Those people are probably going to be fired. And I was going to get with this Thursday in a little bit more detail. John Harbaugh probably agreed to part ways at Michigan. We'll get to that Michigan State game Thursday. But Dan Mullen, pretty good coach, good offensive coordinator, may get a pro job. But you've got to recruit better. And scoring late, I don't know what it was like, 32-7. Either way, that was a big blow to the program. These big primetime games are usually what makes it. Those bad losses to Florida in the past, that's usually what make the brass at the University of Tennessee go get another coach. Something they don't spend any money on them. But that big loss to the rival, now Georgia's all-time good this year. They need to win the national championship, or they may not win one under Kirby Smart this year. But either way, when there's winners, there's losers. And there's consequences for losing. So he's not going to be there. This is a good job. Miami's a good job. Okay? Miami did beat Pittsburgh last week. I don't know how long their coach is going to last. But places like University of Miami, University of Florida, you don't have to travel that far to get players. You know, the players are right there at your fingertips. We'll see how that plays out. My prediction is he's gone after this. Yeah, it's not going to work out, and recruiting's a big deal. You would think that a place like that recruit itself, it's really a you problem if you can't recruit at Florida, because the players are very close by. So anyways, well, we'll see how this World Series plays out. I mean, it looks Freddie Freeman make it 7-0. This will be a monumental collapse if the Braves blow this lead and lose the World Series. This will be compared to the golfer with the Greg Norman or somebody, Pickles, if they blow this league. So I don't want to curse them, but I don't want to give anybody congratulations until the last out in the bottom of the ninth. And I'm going to get off here and watch the rest of that. Still pretty wide awake, guys. If you like the show, share the show. Good responses last week to my interview. God, I forgot the guy's name with Coach there. With the coach from last week. Let me look at this guy. I can't remember. Tell you, man, got a lot going on here, my friend. Jay Mills, a lot of good feedback from former Notre Dame coach, pastor there. Appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. Again, if you like the show, share the show. I'll be back on here around 9 p.m. Central Time Thursday, around halftime of that. Probably going to be an awful Jet and Colt game. But I'll be on here. We'll go over the stories I did not get to tonight and give it over a few previews. I'm going to get into a little bit of that Cleveland Browns situation, or lack thereof it, the ineffective Cleveland Browns, and some other stories I didn't get to. So have a good night, everybody. I will see you around that time here Thursday on Sports Scope.